The courtroom was silent. No whisper, no murmur, only the pressure of eyes gazing ahead, anticipating. Then, in one voice, the judge broke the silence. His words didn't merely reveal deceit, they unwound decades of deception, manipulation, and secretive secrets. This wasn't merely the collapse of a husband. This was the downfall of an empire, unfolding live on television for the world to witness. It had started out as a rumor, a name one the wives had never heard of, but that name would blow up in their lives like dynamite in a powder keg. Her name was Serena, late 20s, stunning black hair, eyes that could slice through glass, and a huge following online. Christine was the first to feel something was off. $7,400 had gone missing from their property fund, camouflaged under a nebulous description, wellness retreat. Later that evening, browsing Instagram, Christine hit pause. A yoga studio photo, a woman in a white robe, and next to her, Kody, his curls unmistakable. Her world shattered in a moment. Picture after picture verified it, his arm slung over Serena's back, a kiss posted and deleted too late. Upset, Christine drove silently to Janelle's residence, the screenshots in her hand. Shortly thereafter, Mary called. She had just gotten a hotel booking confirmation in Cody's name for another woman. And then Robin, still looking for answers, discovered her own indicators. A scent that was not hers hanging about Cody's clothes. A blonde lock of hair. And inside his truck, a velvet ring box with the words engraved, "To my moon forever." It was that night that Robin came to Christine's doorstep, the box clutched in her hand, her face white. No producers, no cameras, just four women united by deceit, and a storm they all knew was brewing. Janelle summoned an accountant. The dining room table was knee-deep in proof, money sent to Serena, charges for high-end vacations, even a bill from a wedding planner. Then the worst punch yet. Christine's friend in Sedona found a filed marriage certificate, Kody Brown and Serena Walker, signed, stamped, and sealed with a forged witness. By morning, the four women entered an attorney's office, arms laden with proof and hearts aflame with anger. Christine clutched the photographs, Janelle bore the bank records, Robin clutched the ring, and Mary bore the voice. "We want to sue," Christine stated. Fraud, identity theft, deception, betrayal. In a matter of 48 hours, the case was constructed. 5 charges of financial fraud, 2 charges of identity misuse, emotional abuse, polygamy offenses. First Christine signed, then Janelle, then Mary, and then Robin, the person whose discovery hurt most. The gossip was flying faster than any bird in flight. Screens flashed with headlines. Social media went berserk. Kody Brown's secret fifth wife trended worldwide, and Kody all the while remained silent. No denial, no apology, because at the heart of him, he knew the lie had come back to haunt him. This was no longer TV. The wives weren't acting for cameras anymore. The suit was real, and his fall had started. The courtroom was filled with the scent of smooth wood and betrayal. 4 women who had once shared a common husband now stood together in one cause, to take him down, openly and legally, for the lies that had devoured their lives. It started the morning that the lawsuit was delivered, hand-delivered to Kody's Flagstaff porch at dawn. He was having coffee with Serena when the papers came into his hands. At that moment, Serena discovered the truth too. The man she had married wasn't a television celebrity. He was a man on the verge of breaking. As he scanned the front page, Kody's face went white. Black letters shouted back, fraud, bigamy, identity theft, embezzlement. Out in the world, they were already watching. Demonstrators filled the courthouse lawn with signs, justice for the sister wives. And at the helm, an impenetrable squad of female lawyers, a group referred to as the Desert Law Queens. They had mountains of proof, wire transfers, LLC papers, marriage certificates, even a Sedona wedding registry known as Kody and Serena's New Life. When the day of the first court appearance finally came, the air was charged. The gallery was packed wall to wall. TLC did not cover it, but no matter. Every media outlet from CNN to TMZ had their sights fixed, live tweeting each twist as if something of history were taking place. Christine was the first through the door. A blue suit, her expression impassive, each step deliberate and firm. Janelle trailed behind, files held tightly against her bosom, resolve emanating from her unspoken words. Next was Mary, chin held high, eyes sweeping the room as if it were hers to command within. And last, Robin, by herself. Dark glasses over her face, a black duster coat draped heavily on her shoulders, as if she were in mourning over the part she had unwillingly played in this failure. The judge walked in, and at once the mood changed. This was no longer spectacle, no longer reality TV, it was judgment. The roll call was called. 4 women stood together, responding with unshakable voices. "Present, Your Honor." At the other side of the room, Kody sat beside his defense lawyer, fidgety, drumming his fingers so anxiously that even the courtroom microphones caught it. Christine went up first. Her voice firm like steel, she spoke of betrayal, not boisterous, not melodramatic, but the way a truth at last sears through silence. "He didn't lie to us," she said. "He used our trust to cover his lies." Her words cut deep as she spoke of the emptied accounts, the futures taken from their children, their savings leached away to fund Serena's indulgences. Every word hit like a hammer against stone. The judge hunched forward, jotting down notes. Then Janelle testified. Factual, organized, relentless. She led the court through the convoluted web of LLCs and business deals, demonstrating how Kody had covered up Serena's spending as investments in the family name. "He said it was for the future," she said. But there were no documents, no contracts, anything. Roomfuls of gasps erupted when she produced emails, Kody, in his own words, directing her to mask Serena's extravagant travel as tax-deductible business expenses. The judge did not hesitate, directing a forensic accountant to start a simultaneous audit right there on the spot. It was Mary's turn next. She didn't have numbers. She brought sadness. She read out of her diary, her voice shaking as she chronicled the gradual disintegration of her marriage, 6 years of not having her husband's hand in hers, while he whispered that he was working on himself, planning meanwhile to elope in secret. And then there was her bombshell. Kody had hacked into her private email, diverting her TLC royalties into a shell company, Wellspring Inc., a firm traced directly back to Serena. The courtroom was filled with gasps until the judge banged his gavel for order. Nothing could have prepared the room for Robin. She advanced, hands unshaking in spite of the break in her voice. She held the velvet ring box aloft for everyone to behold. "This," she declared, "was never meant for me." Her next words cut more sharply than anything yet. Kody had employed her electronic signature on the 5th marriage petition. Her name, counterfeited, utilized to sanctify his clandestine vows to another woman. She locked gazes with him and spoke the words that froze the room. "You forged my name to marry someone else." Even the stenographer hesitated before typing. The judge called for the marriage certificate at once. Hours later, handwriting experts verified what Robin already suspected. The signature had been forged, and in an instant, what had started as betrayal had officially entered into criminal ground. By daybreak, the courthouse buzzed with shock. Outdoors, reporters thronged the steps, flashbulbs popping as Kody melted into the background in silence. The wives, however, did not vanish. They stepped out together, hand in hand, not a broken plural family anymore but plaintiffs. Victims turned avengers. That evening, the judge made his initial blanket orders. All Brown family LLC accounts placed in freeze, Kody's properties confiscated, his TLC revenues suspended. And then, a motion. Serena Walker was to be subpoenaed as a material witness. The internet blew up. Twitter hashtags Kody lied and wife strike went viral globally. And in the corridors of the courthouse, whispers became shouts. Kody's crimes weren't personal. They'd gone transnational. Which meant one thing: an arrest warrant wasn't a question of if, it was a question of when. The black SUV drove away from the courthouse, cameras popping behind it. 4 women rode inside shoulder to shoulder, face worn, hearts wounded, but finally drawing breath in freedom. By the second week of trial, even the lights in the courtroom seemed different, brighter, more cruel, as if they too had lost patience with secrets. Christine was brought back to the witness stand. During cross-examination, her voice remained firm until she spoke about the whispers. A gossip had circulated through Sedona's holistic community. Serena could be pregnant. The words shattered her calm. This wasn't about betrayal, it was making a new family, when Kody was still tied to theirs. The gallery buzzed in shock, gasps puncturing the silence. But the deeper cut came from Janelle. She displayed a printed email, dated several months before the suit. Kody's words to Serena: "Once money gets transferred, we can go to Utah and never look back. Don't worry, the wives will be all right." The judge leaned forward, requiring her to read it once more. And as Janelle read each syllable aloud, the words "the wives will be all right" seemed to linger in the air like poison. Decades of fidelity, shared parenting, sacrifice, all minimized to an afterthought. At the defense table, Kody sat stiff, arms folded, eyes darting nervously toward the gallery, where his own children averted their eyes. Mary trailed behind. She carried her notebooks, page upon page of her disintegration. Her voice shook as she read from one of the entries. "I used to pray for him, now I pray to forget him." The courtroom became quiet. Even the court clerk discreetly fumbled for a tissue. And then Robin advanced with digital evidence, proof that her own identity had been hijacked to produce the forged marriage. The silence grew thicker. A forensic expert verified it. Her electronic signature, copied directly from a 2021 tax return, cut and pasted onto a marriage certificate. Not a mistake, an act. For 40 minutes, Robin laid her truth bare. She described haunting conversations just days before Kody's secret wedding. He had looked at her and said, "You'll always be my legal wife on paper, but Serena is my true future." When the judge inquired as to how that had made her feel, Robin's tears flowed freely. "It made me feel disposable." The words resonated throughout the gallery. Gasps, whispers. Even Kody squirmed uncomfortably, scribbling wildly on a yellow legal pad, his facade of control wavering. And just as the courtroom believed it had finally hit its limit, Christine's attorneys stood to play their last ace. "Your Honor," they declared, "the plaintiffs call a surprise witness." 6 weeks prior, the wives had employed a private investigator, and now his discovery flashed across the courtroom screen. Footage: Kody and Serena walking hand in hand into a real estate office. Kody grinning, presenting her as "my legal wife." Another shot: Kody reassuring an escrow officer he was single save for a matter of debt outstanding paperwork. And then the voicemail. Kody's voice, low and insistent on a burner phone. "Dispose of this after you've heard it. I think the judge is sniffing around our accounts." The gallery exploded. Shouting, incredulity, outrage. The judge banged his gavel, demanding order, his voice piercing the melee. "Mr. Brown, you are no longer in control here." From then on, everything changed. This was no longer Thesop opera of wronged wives. It was the disintegration of a man destroyed by his own deceit. And then Kody himself was sworn in. He sat between his lawyers, rigid, combative, attempting to cover fear with arrogance. The prosecution did not waste any time. Their question cut through. "Did you, or did you not, forge Robin Brown's signature on the Nevada marriage license?" The courtroom hung there. Kody's jaw clamped tight. 6 long, agonizing seconds ticked by, and then at last his reply. "I don't remember." Gasps coursed through the courtroom, hard and relentless. The prosecutor placed 2 blown-up signatures side by side, Robin's authentic one and the forgery. All curves, all pressure points the same. The tension hung in the air until the next question was like a punch. "Did you start Wellspring Inc. to drain the family LLC of money?" Kody shrugged, voice nonchalant, flippant. "It was a shell company." But the judge's smirk said it all. A placeholder, one that had absorbed $118,000 in TLC royalties within a single year. The number struck like thunder. Kody's face drained of color, while across the aisle, his former wives let out audible scoffs, contempt too deep to contain. And just as Kody had hoped he could scratch his way back to power, the judge granted an extraordinary request. A joint affidavit from the 4 women, read aloud by their attorney. "We gave him our youth, our faith, our trust, and our children. He gave us lies, financial ruin, and emotional destruction." The statement sliced through the courtroom like broken glass. Gasp reverberated. Even the judge shifted in his seat before declaring a 10-minute recess. But all that changed in those minutes. Amidst the recess, the prosecution submitted an emergency motion, transferring all of the evidence, phony checks, shell companies, white-collar scams, to the Flagstaff district attorney. The civil case was no longer about damages. Kody Brown potentially stood to face prison. And then the day turned into the unthinkable. Serena herself turned up unannounced, unprepared, but not on Kody's behalf. She had just signed an affidavit, under oath, claiming she didn't even know about his other wives until 3 weeks after they'd gotten married. When she approached him, he waved her off with a gesture, telling her, "They're just holding on to the past." Her testimony wasn't isolated. It was supported by receipts, texts, voice memos, and screenshots of money transfer confirmations. One, Kody's own admission: "If this ever gets out, they'll crucify me on TV." The judge sat up, his words a razor's edge. "Mr. Brown, it appears the crucifixion has already begun." Before court adjourned, motions had been put in place to freeze Kody's personal assets, to cut him off from contact with TLC. Out on the sidewalk, reporters choked, witnessing the fall of one who had constructed an empire of reality television, now seeing it collapse, not from scandal rumor-mongered in the tabloids, but from facts uttered in a courtroom. Within, the women he had sworn to love turned on him, their truth unsheathed like a sword. At the 4th session, tension filled the air. All knew the end was inevitable. Kody walked in without his customary swagger. No props, no bravado. Just a man who looked small, lips clenched tight, eyes empty, as if he had at last caught a glimpse of the wreckage of the empire founded on deceit and charm. This was his moment. Not to posture, not to spin, but to defend himself on oath. He slowly stood up, walked over to the stand, and held his hand up as the oath was read. The words burned on his tongue, but still, he took the oath to tell the truth. For a brief moment, the whole room fell quiet. Even the reporters ceased typing, aware that a reckoning was being played out before them. His attorney started softly, wording questions to paint Kody as a misunderstood man, caught up by events. When the fifth wedding occurred, Kody leaned into the dialogue. "I didn't mean to hurt anybody. I just followed my heart." The words bit. Christine let out a fierce, unintentional laugh from offstage. Robin rolled her eyes. Janelle inclined forward, daring him to keep digging his own grave. And he did. When confronted with Robin's phony signature, Kody began to deliver a rambling diatribe on family bureaucracy. He insisted it was not a legal issue, because in his mind, polygamy was spiritual, not civil. The court wasn't swallowing it. Not anymore. The courtroom was a pressure cooker, and Cody's own words had just ignited the flame. His assertion that Robin's forged signature was a harmless gesture exploded like a grenade. The judge's eyes locked in, voice slicing through the air. "Are you admitting you forged her name?" Kody, sweat glistening along his brow, attempted to dismiss it. "I thought it was harmless." But then the subsequent silence was deafening. Then the rush of whispers, the angry staccato of reporters' fingers on keyboards. Even the judge, visibly appalled, directed his precise words be transcribed into the official record. And then came the hammer. The prosecution revealed incriminating text messages Kody had sent Serena. "Don't worry, Robin's signature won't cause any problems. She signs everything I give her." The irony was sharp, slicing through his defense. Motive, proof, intent, all laid bare. When Kody weakly claimed it was sarcasm, the prosecutor pounced, unrelenting. "So you're saying your marriage licenses, your financial records, your legal filings, they're all just jokes?" Kody stammered, trembled, and as his silence filled the room, his wives sat watching the unraveling of a man they had once trusted. But the prosecution was far from over. A video emerged, one the world hadn't ever witnessed on TLC. On camera, Cody's mask completely slipped as he told a producer off camera, "I control everything, don't I? I have to keep them in line." The gasp that came afterward trembled like a wave. Dedicated supporters at the back lowered their heads. This was not the misunderstood patriarch anymore. This was a man laid bare to reality, a man who lived on control, manipulation, and power. The judge's jaw tightened. Her voice bore the stamp of finality. "Is this about love or is it about control?" Kody trapped, breath under his breath, maybe both. And with it, the room changed. Even the unflappable security guard, impassive for days, averted his face, not wanting to see a man's pride reduced to ash. Then came the heartbreak testimony. Two of Cody's adult children testified, their voices quavering after years of anguish. One girl cried, "He loved the cameras more than he loved us." One son quietly added, "Whenever we cried, he'd tell us, 'Your moms are dramatics.'" The judge ceased taking notes. She didn't require them anymore, she just listened, judged. And then the prosecution delivered their closing blow. A devastating slideshow, every forged signature, every bank transfer, every twisted tactic projected in cold, unforgiving light. They ended with a single line, scrawled in Cody's own handwriting, pulled from a journal hidden in his truck. "As long as they don't unite, I'll always have the advantage." The words lingered in the air like a last confession. His treachery, his deception, his fall, preserved in ink by his own hand. The courtroom fell silent. No gasps, no hushed tones, only the oppressive force of reality. Kody sat by himself at the witness table, his lawyer standing over him, Serena not even daring to glance in his direction. He looked around for a lifeline, but there was none to be found. No power, no wives, no protector, and soon no liberty. The final day finally came. The courtroom was packed, reporters, estranged family members, curious bystanders. Every chair taken, every phone held up, set to see the downfall of a man who was once the patriarch of polygamy. When the judge finally walked in after almost 24 hours of deliberation, the room became heavy. She had a pile of files under her arm, her glasses on the edge of her serious face. Her very presence informed the room. This was the moment. The verdict that would seal a 10-year tale of love, betrayal, and religious deception was about to be heard. The judge raised her gaze over the crowded courtroom, her authority commanding, steadfast, and unflinching. And then, in one straining clear of her throat, the silence broke. Her voice sliced through the air like a knife. "This has been, without question, one of the most emotionally complex and legally sophisticated cases this court has ever heard. No body stirred, No breath was brave enough to emerge from the gravity of her words. In the rear of the room, Serena nervously drummed her fingernails together, while Robin wiped away a tear before it could drop. At the defense table, Kody sat slumped, the swagger that had once characterized him lost. His shoulders were slumped, his confidence melting into the floor itself. And then the indictments started. Each one boomed like the clang of a massive bell. Embezzlement of communally held money, forgery established beyond any shadow of a doubt, emotional blackmail wrapped in the clothing of religion, not technically criminal under code, but heart-stopping in its moral brutality. Exploitation financial in its nakedness, exposed by forensic accounting. Each word boomed from the committee room. And with each word, Kody grew smaller, his neck reddening, his eyes scanning wildly. Outside the courthouse, cameras struggled to trumpet breaking news, but inside the judge had just begun. Far from it. Her voice changed, heavy now with something more profound than weight of law. This court does not only see the monetary damage, but the immense loss of autonomy, dignity, and trust these four women suffered under a doctrine used as a sword for deception. Her eyes scanned Christine, Janelle, Mary, and Robin. Her voice for the first time softened. You are not claimants. You are survivors of emotional warfare. Christine reached under the table for Robin's hand. Mary, ever controlled, shut her eyes as one tear escaped. Janelle nodded ever so slightly, as though speaking to herself finally. Somebody notices us. Then there was the thunderclap. The judge declared the case would not be finished there. Civil verdicts would proceed, but more than that, she was referring it for criminal examination. Document forgery with intent, cross-state marital deception, potential tax evasion. The room exploded. Reporters scrambled for sound bites. TLC executives pounded phones in shock. This was not a courtroom loss, it was a spectacle, a meltdown on national television. The gavel came down like a death sentence. Mr. Brown, in consideration of these facts, and in coordination with the Flagstaff District Attorney, you are remanded into custody, awaiting formal criminal charges. The collective gasp that followed rippled like water. Kody's eyes went wild as he stood frozen, seeking out anyone to intervene. But no one moved, not his lawyer, not Serena, not even Robin. The cuffs clicked closed, their metallic ring echoing like the closing of an era. The judge addressed them again, her tone firm. This case has nothing to do with plural marriage. It has to do with the illegal behavior perpetrated in the guise of spiritual leadership. When the doors creaked open, the outside world exploded. Cameras snapped in unison like fireworks, demonstrators overflowed across the steps, signs crying out en masse, "Protect the wives. Truth wins, no more silence." Within, the women stood motionless, taking one final deep breath of liberty, of justice at last rendered. And then, collectively, they stood up. Christine encircled Mary with her arms. Janelle extended a hand to support Robin. Hand in hand, side by side, they emerged, not as shattered fragments, but as survivors, as warriors. And with a barely audible voice that bore the burden of history itself, the clerk of the court breathed. This is history. Because what occurred here was greater than the fall of one man. It was the taking away of power, the victory of truth, and the redefinition of a family's history, when once told by the voice of one man, now reclaimed by the women who decided to stand up and speak for themselves.